What's up? What's up? What's up, Facebook? This is your boy. This is Brother Haru. Hold on, I can't hear myself in here. Hold on, let me see. Hello? Okay, now I can hear myself in here. Okay, we finna get down with this and we finna check this out. I actually kind of like this debate that's kind of going on with Anhk and Enqi. Although I think that Anhk is going to uh, severely beat him in this debate if they so have it. Oh. And the reason why I say that is because I think that um, when Anhk did the Moat and Bailey fallacy, I think that Anhk hit something right on the head. I think that he kind of exposed the tactic that Enqi was doing, and I think that's going to greatly hurt him in the end. Because when we start talking about it, he was right on some things. When he was talking about how he had a position, then he switched the position, which was a weaker position but a more defendable position, and then when the pressure was taken out, then he went right back to that position, which he clearly did, right? I mean, he clearly went back to the position. I mean, if you clearly look at what happened, um, he first started to talk about that Pangenesis was debunked, and then from there, I mean, he went to first he did the natural selection origin species, and then he started talking to Sonetta about race, and then from race he went to Pangenesis, and then from Pangenesis he went to Galton, then from Galton he went to these other ones, then he went back to whether the theory of evolution was being debunked based on Pangenesis, and then Ankh didn't know what it was, and then people didn't know what these people were, so therefore they didn't know much about it, and he did kind of a circus show while he was continually moving the goalposts, and then he was creating a bunch of straw mans. So if I can just find out where we are in the content, hold on, let's see, let me go back here. Let me see, where am I at? What am I studying? But anyway, what we're gonna do is I don't see where it's being live at. Content. Okay, here we go, right here. I'm just trying to find out, excuse me, right here. Get shareable link. That's what I'm looking for right here. Okay. So when we get here, we'll see exactly what Anhk was doing. Okay, here we go. Awesome, 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 awesome. So here we go. So we're gonna go look at this, and we're gonna look at some of the stuff that Anhk was saying, and then we'll see right here. So I want to go back to first. I want to just go back into what Anhk was saying um, when he gave the definitions. I should have had this pre-done. Well, let's just start it right up in here. Let's just start it here. We'll go halfway.
Was evolving, and Charles Darwin's theory of evolution allowed the doctors to evolve the medicine to catch up with the virus. And I'm saying that's all incorrect, because yes, the science of evolution allowed that to happen, right? But not Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution had nothing to do with genetics. There was no genes in his lifetime. There was no DNA. There was no RNA. He knew nothing about any of that.
Who said that, though?
You did. It's on video.
Nah, you put that together. What I said was...
No, sir. No, sir.
What I said was evolutionary theory. We know evolution is real. We know the theory is right. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have been able to continue to make changes in the vaccine every time a new variant came. The variant was proof that things evolve over time.
Now, let me just highlight a mistake that they don't know that they're making right here. So, what Anhk and Jabari are saying, and this is where you see sloppy scholarship, right? And I just want to highlight this, and we're going to keep working, right? Sloppy scholarship comes in where Jabari says social Darwinism had nothing to do with Darwin, because I teach my students that, it's a mistake to attribute any of the racist ideas that came along later on with social Darwin, with Darwin, because those things came about later on after Darwin was dead. So since those things came along after Darwin's time, those things have nothing to do with Darwin. You can't falsely attribute those things that came along after Darwin was dead to Darwin.
That's correct. That's 100% correct. Because the intent was not what social Darwinism created.
And right after, Jabari hits the tap dance with that.
Things are really heating up here at the Joneses.
That's because the Portland Thorns have teamed up with Window Nation to offer the most...
I gotta get cute in how to do these videos with no...
They turn right back around and say that they're attributing genetic research somehow to Charles Darwin, as if they didn't just say that the things that came along after Charles Darwin was dead cannot be attributed to Charles Darwin.
See, this is a slip and slide, because, what he's saying, when Anhk is saying that Charles Darwin theory of evolution did have nothing to do with social Darwinism, which came up later, which was the foundation of it, right? Meaning that he didn't create that science to mean that. But when we start talking about vaccines were built upon the theory of evolution, which they took directly from Darwin to apply to the evolution of vaccines and viruses and so forth. So I see what Enqi is doing, and I see his rationale, right? So if A equals A, then C equals A equals B. That's kind of a rationale. Like, so one has to equal other if you apply one to the other one. So I kind of see what he's saying. but it's kind of convoluted how he's presenting it. Um,
So you can't have it both ways. If the things that came along after Charles Darwin was dead cannot be attributed to Charles Darwin, then we cannot attribute genetics in any shape, form, or fashion to Charles Darwin. Or if we are going to try and attribute genetics to Charles Darwin, then we absolutely have the ability to link social Darwinism to Darwin, because both of those things came along after Darwin was dead. Both of those things were created by other people separate from Darwin. So I'm just highlighting something that the smarter people that are watching are going to be able to catch and check and laugh at, while Jabari continues to make foolish arguments and, you know.
the thing is, social Darwinism isn't Darwinism, but vaccines is evolution. So in vaccines, they showing how things change, which is an evolution. How things adapt, that's evolution. Social Darwinism is a interpretation of Darwinism with a class or a hierarchy of humans. And according to Darwinism, of course, theory of evolution, the hierarchy is only natural selection, right? That's pretty much what it is. And then how things change over time. It has nothing to do with the social order of human beings as far as in the class. That's the part in which Enqi, I believe, is from hearing him, is what he's trying to squeeze that square into a round hole.
I'm showing you the scholarship because I'm a professor and a PhD in my school. This is what I teach. Slow it on down, champ. You're not even listening to your own self speak. You're creating arguments that you want to use when they benefit you in one space, and then turning right back around and then hiding from the very same argument at the next moment. So I just want to highlight that. When they make the case that things like social Darwinism, that because they were invented by someone else, because they came along after Darwin is dead, they cannot be attributed to Darwin, we also have to put the study of chromosomes and genetics into that same space. It was created by someone else, and it came along after Darwin was dead. So therefore,
okay, let's get to his main argument. All right, let's stop playing around. Let's get to his main argument. Where's it at?
Do not pay your next car insurance bill. Repeat.
Don't
do
pay your next
not
insurance bill.
pay your bill yet.
So I found this website and look at the difference.
Don't pay your next insurance bill.
I gotta be able to present it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so let's finish talking about.
Nah, hell no, man. Nah, man, come on, bro.
Yo, why you? Oh, you learning a lot during this
I
conversation.
learned a lot about nothing. You mischaracterizing everything. I ain't learned it the way you learned it. I never learned. Hold on, I never learned.
That I would agree. That I would agree. He mischaracterizing everything. I would definitely agree with Uncle on that one. And I don't even agree with Uncle on a lot of shit, but I agree with him on this.
Wallace published the theory of evolution with Darwin because that learned it.
And that's incorrect. Wallace did not publish the theory of evolution with Wallace.
I never learned. Hold on, I never learned that Wallace published the theory of evolution with Darwin because that's not true. I never learned. Hold on, I never learned.
He's correct on that. And I don't get in this video why he continued to play this part, because Anhk is 100% correct. Wallace never published a theory of evolution with Charles Darwin.
That Wallace published the theory of evolution with Darwin because that's not true. That didn't happen. I never learned that Wallace came up with the information before Darwin. That's not true. I never heard of none of these things. You're making it up, bro. And you know it. Come on,
reading it. We're reading it together.
No, we didn't read that. I didn't comprehend that. No, what I read was that they published a paper, right? And you should show that paper. You should click that link and show that paper. But you know what? You can't click the link.
that so when he's talking about they published this paper, um, right? Um, this paper that he published was not a paper where they came together and they kind of like talked about like they found the theory of evolution together, where they both put in their ideas and their notes in one paper, and then they came up with and submitted it. That didn't happen, and so they wrote a paper to Linnaeus Society, just talking about how they both independently came up with the same idea. That was it. And so, like I said, I don't know what he means by that, because Unc is right again.
It's on the paper because you got to have a source that will allow you to move forward to be able to click that link. Where is the source? Where Pangenesis debunked Charles Darwin evolution. Where's the source that says his own attempt at Pangenesis debunked his own theory of evolution? Where's it at, bro?
Let me ask
No, nope. Can't ask me no question. Remember, that's the rules of the game.
That's not the rules of the game.
But do you see, every time Unc asks him a question, he always want to ask Unc another question. I mean, I don't know if anybody noticed that. I've been watching this for the last couple of days. Big shouts out to Sinetta for, putting this on. I think this is one of the most interesting dialogues that's been going on. And but yeah, every time he asks him a question, he tends to say, "Hey, let me ask you another question," because he's trying to get around it with logic and reasoning, right? But as far as in providing the actual source or something like that, he's not doing that really.
It is. That's the rules. Okay. Well, why would I let you run roughshod, ask everybody many questions when you say anything and allow to go forward by saying anything and not verifying what you're saying? I'm verifying everything.
I just verified. We just read it together.
You didn't verify that. You misread that. You miscomprehend like most people do. You don't really understand Wallace, nor Charles Darwin, nor Lamech. You don't. That's like we're saying Algae. What the hell Algae got to do anything? He talked about evolution before Charles Darwin too. Come on, bro.
Let's pull it back up then and see.
No. I need the source, bro.
I'm showing you right here. Let's pull it back up.
You're showing me. You're not showing that source. Where's the source at, bro?
I'm saying we're gonna read it together.
No, we're not.
Let's go back to the material. You said Charles Darwin was the father. Now I feel like you're getting angry because.
Hey.
So here's the thing. Unc likes to use Wiki, right? Or he likes to use Google and stuff like that. And here's what it says. Now we're just gonna use ChatGPT. It says, well, the title of evolution is most commonly given to Charles Darwin. He was the one who really put the theory of evolution by natural selection on the map with his 1859 book on the origins of species. It says, of course, there were other thinkers around that time who contributed to the evolution idea, but Charles Darwin is definitely the one who gets the most credit for forming and polarizing the theory as we know it. So, he's wrong by saying that Charles Darwin isn't the father. He is considered by scientists and peers that he is the father of evolution. And although there were others who did have some ideas, his publishing of the Origin of Species in 1859 brought that label onto him.
Hey, I'm not getting angry. Matter of fact, I'm gonna change my glasses that make me look angry. I'm not. My blue. Let me put on my my whitest snow glasses.
Yeah. Wait. So look, I feel like.
Now come on, now you playing, yo.
But listen, here's what I'm saying. All right, listen to what I'm saying for a second.
No,
You said Charles Darwin is the father, right?
I don't want to talk.
Wait. How could Charles Darwin be the father if Charles Darwin is not the originator? There is a line of people that came before him. Whoever this.
See, this is what's so incorrect. This is what is so incorrect. Being the father of something, but he wasn't the first, right? You don't have to be the first person to know like math, or you don't have to be the first one to know about herbs and to medicine. It's the one who progresses it the most and the one who is known the most will be the father of whatever science you have. Um, you know, he was one who put the evolution on the map with his observations, his papers, and everything. He was the father of it. Other people had ideas. They may wrote pamphlets. They maybe had notes, but Darwin was the one who pushed that out there. That's like saying that, you know, Little Richie wasn't the father of the godfather of rock and roll. Rock and roll, you know, there were there was rock and roll music out there before he got there. But he the one who pushed that out there. If you got you know, just elements of certain things like that, like dance or salsa, I think his what do you call that? Fallacy of etymology is incorrect.
Guy is that you bring up on the platform, he knows that. He knows, you know, I don't know if he just Googled it or he been knew it, but he knows what I'm talking about. So I'm just showing you to expand your horizon around the subject that Darwin is not the father of it.
Yeah, what's up, man?
I'm going to drop down and go get my laptop so I can pull up what's on it. I'm tired of the nonsense.
He's scamming. We know he's scamming.
Wait. If he asked me that, okay, so look, let me say this. I get it. These people are loyal to you, Unc, and I love to see. Listen, let me just say this. I love to see the loyalty. You know what I'm saying? But he asked me, do I know who's Buffoon? Now, that tells me that he probably just looked it up recently because it's not Buffoon. The guy's name is Buffon, right? It's Comte de Buffon, and his actual name is Leclerc. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying the guy is he precedes. So you got Darwin and Wallace. Then before Darwin and Wallace, you have Lamarck. Before Lamarck, you have Darwin's grandfather, and then in that time period, or maybe before, you have Comte de Buffon. So I'm saying that when you say Darwin is the father,
yeah, Al-Jahid.
Nah.
No, what you mean? In the Muslim word, Al-Jahid, what you mean? Nah. You just did the same thing to me, so you don't know about Al-Jahid?
I do, but them dudes is on a different line of thinking. So
it's not. They talk about evolution. All right. They do. I'm just saying, yo, like, come on, bro.
I agree that they do talk about the passing of information from parent to offspring, but I'm saying in a very specific way where they had this thing called, I think it was called the IAC or the LAC or whatever the case may be, acquired characteristics, something to that effect. And they have a specific line of thought that was continuous that they kept working on and building. So, like I was saying the other day, there's a bunch of scientists that was trying to figure out evolution just in a broad sense. But I'm saying in a very specific sense, you have Darwin and Wallace. Then before them, you have Lamarck. Before them, you have Darwin's grandfather. Before them, you have Comte de Buffon. So when you say Darwin is the father, I'm saying that you just haven't read all the material.
See, this is where it goes again. Because you had somebody earlier who had ideas about it, right? Darwin was the one who popularized it. He was the one who took it a step further. And that's why he's the father of evolution. No one says that Darwin came up with the concept of evolution by himself from the ground up. You know, it was built upon, but the foundation of evolution as we know it today is based off of Darwin. Period.
And I'm saying that you ain't read all the material because if you had, you'd have been all right.
Okay.
You wouldn't afford that.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I just actually want to tell you, and I said this over and over again.
That's fair enough.
No, listen, I'm saying for a person to be a father.
And okay, on here he says that they wrote a paper together. Now this is what I want to show you right here. This is what I find funny, right? So here's the paper in which they say he say they wrote together. So let me increase this real quick. I want to erase this real quick. Let me just do this. So, and I believe in here, Enqi even said that they presented to the Linnean Society. But on here you can clearly read that on It says the origin paper by Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace read to the Linnean Society, London, July 1st, 1858. It says, on June 18th, 1858, Charles Darwin received an essay written by Alfred Russel Wallace. So they weren't collaborating on anything. Wallace sent him an essay from Tennant in the Malaya Archipelago. It outlined Wallace's theory of evolution by natural selection in terms that were strikingly similar to Darwin's own draft of the theory. Now, if we just take this, it says that he wrote a paper that outlined Wallace's theory of evolution by natural selection that resembled Darwin's. The aftermath, it says, after much fretting, Darwin's friend, Sir Charles Lyell and Joseph D. Hooker suggested a solution. Excerpts from Darwin's writing on natural selection, a letter from Darwin to Asa Gray, and Wallace's essay would be jointly presented to the Linnean Society. On June 30th, 1858, Lyell and Hooker wrote a cover letter to the society and submitted the material. So Charles Darwin and Wallace didn't even put anything together. It was Sir Charles Lyell and Joseph D. Hooker who got together, and Charles Darwin and Assassin's Gray and Wallace essay, they put it together and they presented, and they wrote a cover letter. The following day, the paper was read by the society secretary to 30 or so attending the Linnean Society meeting. Neither Darwin nor Wallace were present. So I don't understand what Anhk is saying. I have no idea what he's saying. About they presented and they wrote a paper together on evolution, and nothing on here says they wrote a letter of about evolution together. Nothing. Absolutely, 100% nothing. They took the essays from Wallace and they took the theory and the essay and the excerpt, and some of the excerpt was unpublished material from Charles Darwin, because Charles Darwin had notes earlier than Wallace had. They put them together and they just wrote it. Now, when we look, we're just going to look at the letter. There is not a blend of information, like a unified thought of what evolution is. In here, it talks about Darwin's theory, and this right, on the tendencies of species to form varieties, and on the perpetuation of varieties and species by natural means of selection. This is Darwin. Then, as we go down, right, this is Darwin's all work, nothing from Wallace, right? And this is Charles Lyell, Josh D. Hooker, J.J. Bennett, Esquire Secretary of the Linnean Society. And then this one right here is an extract from an unpublished work on species by Charles Darwin. Once again, this is all Charles Darwin's work. It's not until later, until we get to Wallace's excerpt, extracted from a letter from Charles Darwin, Esquire, Professor Darwin. And this is when Asar Gray wrote something in this excerpt, because he was Charles Darwin's friend and a professor or something like that, and so he wrote something. And then we have here on the tendencies of varieties to depart indefinitely from the original type. And this was by Alfred Russel, which explained his theory of evolution. They didn't combine anything. They didn't write anything together. Charles Darwin didn't know anything about his work until Wallace sent him a letter which outlined his theory of evolution, which became strikingly similar to his. And because of this, Charles Darwin, after he wrote the letter, he published his theory and his works before anyone else. That's what happened. So, once again, I don't know what he's talking about.
All in the field. It's actually counterintuitive again. Basically, what I'm saying is science have a whole different language unto itself. So a father in the field is not like a father in biology, in your human state, where you say, well, I'm the father of the son. I'm the father of that child. Right? That means you are the first, you're the father, right? It implies that, but in science, it doesn't mean that. In scientific fields, when you're stated to be the mother or the father, right, that simply means that you have put together information that prior to you, no one else even did that. That the ideas you came up with, like this, you just talked about Charles Darwin, you talked about Wallace, you talked about Lemaitre, right? The difference is that Charles Darwin actually identified with scientific information, right, and detailed empirical data of natural selection. Now,
Yo, Enqi, I'm gonna put it back up. I just want to tell you, you don't even know that this video got you looking bad, man. Anhk is smashing you on his own video, bro.
I hear you. I hear you,
Enqi.
I hear you, Sal. Sal, what you showing is that maybe you don't understand what you're looking at.
Man, listen.
Since you came in for a second, let me ask you. If
Anhk is right. Anhk is 100%. I mean, Sinette is right. He's smashing him on this. No matter how he try to reframe it or re-say it, he's getting killed.
Anhk says, yeah, you running. Okay. All right. Grand opening, grand closing.
oh, bro. So that means he collected more data of more variations of things. It's right there. So I'm gonna ask you, did Wallace circumnavigate the globe?
Oh.
I asked the question.
Okay, well, let me just say this.
But now I see.
How you gonna ask me a question and then you don't want me to answer it my way? You gotta let me answer it.
Go ahead. I'm not gonna take 5 minutes, so you gonna answer the question and then give your whole you know what I'm saying? Or just answer the question. Come on, bro.
I'm gonna answer the question.
All right, go ahead.
Now, Darwin and Wallace was two different types of scientists.
And Darwin wasn't a scientist. He was a naturalist.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. That's crazy work. You going crazy right now.
Yo, you know that man was a naturalist. Yo,
So hold on. What's a natural?
Oh, man, keep going with your thing. It's a step before because that's how.
Okay, so once again, even in this
That's how it
paper,
go. You go from being a philosopher,
hold on.
and then they move forward.
Hold on. Let's look at this, right? So let's read in this paper. I believe it's let me find it for you guys. Okay, in this paper, when we start, okay, so we talk about here, where's it at? In the paper, man, where's it at? It talked about where it even classified them as two naturalists. I wonder if I can even find it. It's in here somewhere. in here, oh man, I couldn't find it. In here, he talked about these two men being naturalists, or Charles Darwin being a naturalist. And I can find it later. I should have had it ready. Let's go. So once again, Anhk is right.
Right? Out of philosophy, right, comes science. So you got you got philosophers, then you get naturalists, and then
Now you ran off somewhere, Si. I want you to know you missed the part where Anhk is now teaching us that Darwin was not a scientist. So I just want you to know what your man is up to.
and you get scientists, yo. It's the stages. Everything is in stages. The more you get, the more information, the steps you get to now, you know what I'm saying? We say you're a scientist. You know what I'm saying? But Charles Darwin, they wasn't that yet. They just wasn't. That's not what they called him. They called him a naturalist.
They definitely called him a naturalist. But that part that you just said about the stages and you just go from one, you just made that up. You made that up. You made that up.
I didn't make that up.
You made that up.
I didn't actually make that up.
You know what? If I was over there, right now, I'd give you a hug. You know you made that up.
I didn't make it up, yo.
You freestyled that.
I didn't.
There's no. All right, so you know what? Provide us with a source.
No, I'm not.
Provide us with a source that shows that there's a stages that you go.
Ain't gonna make. No, I'm not saying. Wait, I'm not saying. Let me make sure you got this right. I'm not saying in modern times a person goes from a philosopher to a natural. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the history of science, these are the different stages that will get us to the point where we're literally calling people a scientist. That's what I'm saying, bro. So
scientist.
Oh, come on, man.
A naturalist is a type of scientist. I'm trying to explain it to you.
Come on, bro. Go ahead, Chalimbe. You just saying any damn thing. Let me get this next one.
So this is from the presentation we did last, like 2 weeks ago. So this is one of the slides. So you see the three proponents, they all within the same generation, you can say. Darwin always quotes buffoon, or however he pronounced the French word, whatever. Doesn't matter to me if I pronounce it right or wrong. And you can see the differences in their thing. Now, it's a shortcut. They science tends to say the father of modern biology.
Now watch this, side. I see you calling me, but this is the most important part of the video right here. I want to show you the most dishonest scholarship that we ever saw in the history of the internet right now.
Okay, just so keeping it fair, just fact checking. It says that a naturalist is a type of scientist, specifically one who studies nature, including animals, plants, ecosystems, and the relationship between organisms and the environment. Historically, the term naturalist often used for early scientists like Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace, who studied the natural world through observation, collection, and classification. Today, the term is still applies to the field of biologists, ecologists, botanists, zoologists, and wild biologists.
Okay, so we're gonna pay attention to this because this is crazy right here. This is where Anhk is in trouble, trying to prove this idea that Darwin is the father of evolution, and his student literally comes to jump to the rescue. And just watch this. This is the biggest blunder ever of all time in the history of the internet. Go back to the thing. Let's just pay attention, Sal. Don't go nowhere.
Already using ChatGPT? Well, Grammarly makes the next step effortless, refining your writing with clarity.
It's Darwin, theory of evolution, et cetera, as a shortcut without giving out all the details and mimics that wrote right up to it. So that's why I get puzzled when Enqi presented his case about Pangenesis, because it wasn't just Darwin's. So I need him to explain what is he saying about Pangenesis. I haven't gotten past that yet. And the theory of evolution by natural selection. Now you'll find a lot of people prior to him had bits and pieces of it, not a full, complete working model. You'll find that. And some of them interjected spirits, gods. But one thing he's known for is variation within species. So let's talk about it.
All right, so let me just say this. You bring this up, and I've been doing this a long time, so I could kind of listen to tonality, and you have a tonality of like triumph. And so when you started off, you brung up your slide, and you started off with, was that a miss? Did you misspeak, or did you just lie outright to the people?
What do you mean?
Because you said that they were contemporaries from the same time period.
Within the same generation, yeah.
Okay, but are you not able to name time people?
What do you mean?
Because you said that they were contemporaries from the same time period.
Within the same generation, yeah.
Okay, but are you not able to read your own slide?
Yeah, I can read my slide.
Okay, pull your slide back up. Are you not the same time period?
What do you mean?
Because you said that they were contemporaries from the same time period.
Within the same generation, yeah.
Okay, but are you not able to read your own slide?
Yeah, I can read my slide.
Okay, pull your slide back up, because this is crazy right here. Now, this is nasty work right here, and I don't know this guy. This is one of your men. This is whose man's is this? Listen, this is one of them whose man's is this video.
That's my man.
That slide back up there on the screen.
My man.
Whose man's is this? Put that slide back up there. Yo, that's nasty work right there. Why he not putting that slide back up there? Now listen, just for clarity, when he came and put his slide up, he said something crazy. He said that Comte de Buffon and Charles Darwin were contemporaries in the same generation. That's absolute insanity for anybody that understands this information.
Let's go back and hear it. Let's go
Charles
back.
Darwin were contemporary.
Theory of evolution, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's hear it.
So this is from the presentation we did last, like 2 weeks ago. So this is one of the slides. So you see the three components, they all within the same generation, you can say. Darwin always quotes Buffon, or however he pronounced the French word, whatever. Doesn't matter to me if I pronounce it right or wrong. And you can see the differences in their thing. Now, it's a shortcut. They science tends to say the father of modern biology.
Now watch this, side. This, I see you calling me, but this is the most important part of the video right here.
Components, they all.
Yo, you wild for that.
So like I was saying.
I get it. Listen,
We're talking about signs of cap.
this is a king. Firms, he has no clue what Pangenesis is, so he has no clue which.
What's your point, though? What are you trying to say?
My point is that's beyond disingenuous. Why would he come up here with a slide and try to make it seem like this guy and Darwin were somehow in the same time period or contemporaries?
Do you die the day you're born?
Bro, that's more than 100 years difference.
I'm asking you a simple question. Do you die the day you're born?
That's more than 100 years.
No, it's not. See, that's what I'm saying. You're not. I don't know if maybe you're trying to play a game.
1707 to 1809 is more than 100 years difference.
Enqi, when did he die?
Yo, this is wow.
Man, this nigga died. Man, come on, yo. He died after Charles Darwin died, though, bro. Enqi, you know the man died after Charles Darwin died, though, right? If Charles Darwin died, hold on, bro. If Charles Darwin died in 1882, and your man died in look, when did he die? When did he say he died?
88.
Right. So he was dead before Darwin was even born. You're wrong.
Though. I'm just trying to figure out what are you saying?
You're wrong. Listen, now you try. Problem number one. Anhk does not know who the father of evolution is. He and his students believe.
Well, let me get ready to end this. This is late. This is getting close to an hour. When he says that the father, the one thing Enqi can't do is he can't change. He can't change titles that's given by a census of the scientific community, which they state as, Charles Darwin being the father of evolution. Anhk has him where he wants him if he doesn't allow Enqi to move. Enqi's whole argument was Pangenesis debunks, Pangenesis was Charles Darwin's hypothesis on the mechanism for evolution. And if Anhk stays right there, he's dead. He's completely 100% dead. There's no more work that needs to be done, because Pangenesis is just the mechanisms of the idea of how information was passed from parent to offspring. That was it. But the idea that information did pass from parent to offspring is the overall idea. How it got done, he didn't know because, Darwin didn't know because he didn't have genetics, he didn't have DNA, he didn't have these things. But the idea that it did pass through, because he said it was, I think it was joules. So different information from different parts of the body gathered into the reproductive organs, and that was passed. So he was very close in his idea about information inside the body being passed, but through the reproductive organs, it just wasn't accurate. But it doesn't debunk evolution, because we found out later that yes, information through DNA is passed from parent to child and from its next generation on. So I got my money on Anhk. I think this is going to be an easy win if Anhk just stays right there. Stop chasing the Linnaeus. The Francis Galton. Stop chasing the Wallace. Stop chasing all these other things. He was clearly wrong when he stated that they published something together. They didn't know about each other's work. Wallace just had an outline. It clearly says that, you had Assad Gray and you had Joseph write the excerpts, and that was kind of it. And then he published it, the rest of it. So that's about all. And it was an interesting topic. I can't wait till the debate. If Anhk keeps going on with this, I think that people found more holes in what he's saying, and how he's presenting the information. So that's all I got. I want y'all to let y'all know that, that's just my disclaimer. This is my views. It does not represent the views of Cynetic TV, Anhk, or Enqi, or anyone on Cynetic TV. These views are my own. This is just for criticism and just critiquing on these views. I want to thank y'all again if y'all listen or see it, and stay tuned to Cynetic TV. This is Brother Daniel Haru at EDPN, Entertainment and Debate Programming Network.